guys, it's Kira, and as you might be able to tell, I'm coming at you with a video which is Gilmore Girls themed. I just love it. Gilmore Girls gives me an energy that nothing else does, and I am here for it. I'm so excited because today I'm going to be sharing my TBR for the Gilmoreathon. This is a Gilmore Girls readathon that is being hosted by 4 wonderful hosts. We have Desi, Mackenzie, Liv and Heather, and they, like me, are big fans of Gilmore Girls, and last year they created the Gilmore Girls readathon, and it's come back for a second round this year, and I'm so excited about it. As you know, I love to host my own Gilmore Girls readathons alongside my friend Carolyn, but it's going to be really fun, I think, to join in with a readathon that's being hosted by someone else, because I always think it's fun to come up with books to meet prompts that someone else has set, and I always just love taking part in anything that is remotely Gilmore Girls related. So if you haven't come across this readathon anywhere on social media, it is going to be a 1 week long readathon, and it starts on Sunday the 15th of November and goes through until Sunday the 22nd. And I'm so happy about that because honestly, I do think that week-long readathons, or even better in my opinion, 24-hour readathons, are way easier to do. Even though you end up reading way more in a smaller amount of time, I always seem to find that I'm way more productive in those shorter readathons than I am in month-long ones, even though logically you'd think that you'd be able to read more in a full month. It just never works out that way. So I'm really excited to just dive into all things Gilmore Girls related for that 1 week of November. It's going to be so cozy and I'm so excited. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can go about doing this readathon, and I will of course be linking the hosts in the description box down below, so I definitely recommend checking out one or all of their announcement videos just to see a little bit more information about how this one works. But essentially there are 2 different paths you can take. You can either pick books based on a list of prompts, or you can try and fill in a bingo board, or you can try and do both. So the way that I'm doing it, because I am going to be working during the week of the readathon, so I'm not sure exactly how much reading I will be able to do, is that I'm going to pick books for the list of prompts because there is definitely less prompts on there than there is on the bingo board. So I'm going to try and prioritize all of those books first whilst trying to tick off some of the bingo board prompts along the way and just seeing how far I get. So today I'm going to be talking to you about which books I've picked for the list of prompts, and then during the week of the readathon itself I'm going to be filming vlogs, and I will be talking about the bingo board in that vlog. So first up, Gilmore Girls is of course set in the wonderful town of Stars Hollow. So the first prompt that we have is to read a book that is set in a small town. Now, the author that came to mind when I was thinking about this prompt was Jenny Colgan. I read this book by her last Christmas, and it is called An Island Christmas. This is a book which is set on a tiny island called Muir off the coast of Scotland, and this community is so small and so tight-knit, and it really did seem to have that same community spirit as somewhere like Stars Hollow. And also the Christmas vibes just made it even cozier. So as soon as I saw this prompt, I went on to Jenny Colgan's little biography and decided to see if I could find any more books of hers that are set on this island, because I know that she has a full series set on this island following the same types of characters. And lo and behold, she has another one which is also set at Christmas time. And that one is called Christmas at the Island Hotel. It's following the same characters as we met in this book, and I loved this book so much that I knew that this one had to be the one that I picked up. So I'm holding this book because my copy of Christmas at the Island Hotel is still yet to arrive, but it is going to arrive before the start of the readathon, and I just think Jenny Colgan has such a cozy way of writing this small town community, and it's just perfect for this readathon. So I'm going to be diving into Christmas at the Island Hotel, and I cannot wait. And then another prompt which we have is to read a book which is set during autumn or winter, and because I'm going to be reading a book which is called Christmas at the Island Hotel, I think it's clear that that definitely ticks off the winter prompt. This is the only book, well, it's not even this book, Jenny Colgan's book is the only book that I'm using to meet more than one prompt. The rest of them I'm doing individual books for each of the prompts, but that one just seemed so perfect for both of those prompts. So Christmas at the Island Hotel is going to be cozy, small town vibes with Christmas as well, and it sounds amazing. Next up, we have To Read a Book which features a mother-daughter relationship. Now, of course, this could be applied to almost every book. Every book that has a female character probably mentions a mother-daughter relationship at some point or other. But I wanted to pick a book where I thought that relationship was going to be key to the story because, of course, in Gilmore Girls, the mother-daughter relationships that we see between Rory and Lorelai, and also Lorelai and Emily, are so integral to everything that the show is about. So I decided to pick The Most Fun We Ever Had, which I'm really excited about because I picked up this book over summer, just didn't have a chance to read it, but it sounds like a perfect book for this prompt because it focuses on a dysfunctional family. The blurb of this book says, "Meet the Sorensen family. Marilyn has somehow fallen into motherhood and spent 4 decades married to David, who's pretty certain that he loves her more than anyone has ever loved another person. Wendy, their eldest, a cause for concern, soothes herself with drink after being widowed young, while Violet is disturbed by the reappearance of a son placed for adoption 15 years earlier. Liza, a professor, is pregnant with a baby she's not sure she wants by a man she's not sure she loves, and Grace, their dawdling youngest daughter, lives a lie that no one in her family suspects." So I feel like this is going to be really interesting because we don't just have one mother-daughter relationship, we of course have a mother and then her 4 daughters, and I think that is going to be really, really interesting because, like I said, it sounds very much like a dysfunctional family, and I think you could definitely argue that the Gilmores are quite dysfunctional in the way that they behave around one another and just their relationships. Of course, Rory and Lorelai have quite a close relationship, but even their relationship is dysfunctional at times, and then when it comes to the grandparents or Lorelai's parents, that dysfunction becomes really key, and there are just so many differences in the ways that they all want to live their lives that I think it just makes a really, really interesting program because although there is a lot of love and care at the core of all of those relationships, there are also so many difficulties which I think probably could apply to lots of families in some way or another. So I think this is going to be a really interesting book, and I'm so excited to be reading it during this readathon. Our next prompt is to read a book which features some complicated love interests, which is of course so key to Gilmore Girls. I feel like aside from the mother-daughter relationships that I just spoke about, the romantic relationships in the show are the next most important thing, and it's so interesting to me to go back and rewatch Gilmore Girls as many times as I have, which is a lot, and just to see how these 2 main characters, Rory and Lorelai, kind of develop, change and grow so much throughout the series and how then their relationships, and in particular their romances, are kind of reflective of that growth because we see them behaving so differently as the show goes on, and the way that they interact in their romantic relationships seems to change and develop based on their own personal character growth. And so it's really interesting to see how all of those complicated situations arise and how it reflects all of the growth that they have throughout the show. So the book that I've chosen, which I think definitely fits into this category, is The Love Squared by Laura Jane Williams. The front of this book says, "Two's company, three's a crowd, four's complicated." And in this book, we follow our main character, Penny, who would consider herself as someone who is unlucky in love. And then suddenly, all at once, she meets not 1, not 2, but 3 suitors, men who she really likes and who also like her. And she's faced with this really complicated situation of trying to figure out who she wants to be with. And I'm also assuming trying to figure out as well, like how to make sure that she doesn't hurt anyone and all of that complicated stuff. But I'm sure also trying to like dip her toes into all of these different relationships to see which one suits her best. And so I just feel like this is going to be a really fun, light-hearted, but also interesting book that shows how messy things can get. And I think that is definitely reflective of some of the situations that we see both Rory and Lorelai get involved in throughout the show. And I'm really excited to read this one. And also it is a signed copy, which I'm super excited about, so hopefully I do really enjoy it. The next prompt is to read a book by an Asian author, and I'm so excited to finally be reading Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ang. I feel so bad for this book because this is the book that comes up on almost every single one of my TBRs. I feel like I've been mentioning this book for the last like 3 or 4 months now, and I just still haven't gotten around to it, but it sounds so interesting. I understand that this is something of a cross between a domestic drama and a thriller, and I just think it's going to be so interesting because it follows another quite small community, and then there's a disruption when this new mother and daughter come into this town and cause a rift because they are so exciting and so different to everything else that is kind of within the status quo of this community, and I think that then leads to a lot of different issues. And actually, having just described the synopsis of this book, I feel like this one could have been applied to so many different prompts. I've obviously used it for this prompt to read a book which is written by an Asian author, but it is about a mother and daughter who turn up to this new town, so it does have a mother-daughter relationship, and I believe they also turn up to this relatively small community, so I think it could also work for a small town book as well. But either way, regardless of the fact that this one meets pretty much every single prompt out there, I am super excited to read it, and I cannot wait to finally be able to share my thoughts with you all, because I think this one is going to be a really, really good and interesting read. So the next prompt is non-bookish, and that is to bake a fall treat and watch your favourite episode of the show. Now, I know for sure what treat I'm going to be baking, because my favourite treat to bake and eat in autumn is cinnamon rolls. They are just so delicious, and I actually haven't made them this autumn yet, which is like bordering on unacceptable. I need to like completely fix that soon, because it's going to be Christmas soon and I really want to make them before we get into December, because then we of course move on to all of the amazing Christmas treats out there. So I really need to get my act together and make some cinnamon rolls, and I think this readathon is going to be the perfect time to make some cinnamon rolls, make a cup of tea, and then sit down for an episode or 10 of Gilmore Girls. And with that in mind, I really struggle to decide what my favourite episode is, and I think it changes all the time. A couple of my favourites are the Lazy, Hazy, Crazy Days of Summer episode, and also the 24-hour dance marathon episode, and then some other ones later on, but I won't talk about them because I don't want to give any spoilers in case you haven't watched Gilmore Girls yet. But rest assured, I won't just be watching one episode, I'll be watching several. And then the final prompt is to read the next book in a series that you haven't finished yet. Now, I really struggled with this one because I'm actually not really hugely into series, and I'm not in the middle of many at the moment, and in fact the only one that I'm in the middle of is actually the A Song of Ice and Fire series or the Game of Thrones series, and let me tell you, I will not be reading one of those books in this week, because let's be honest, that is literally just like a reading death wish. You have to give a lot of time and attention to George R.R. Martin, and his books are ginormous, and so I'm not a crazy person. I'm not going to be trying to fit one of those books into my TBR for this week, and instead I've decided to alter this prompt a little bit, because I don't have any series on the go, and I also don't have any starts of series on my shelves either. So instead, what I'm going to be doing is revisiting an old favourite series, and I'm going to be reading the middle book of a series that I really enjoyed finishing last year, and that series is the Folk of Air series by Holly Black, and I'm going to be rereading The Wicked King. I read this book, I think, at the beginning of 2019, and then of course The Queen of Everything came out at the end of last year, and then The Cruel Prince was the year before. And of those three books, The Wicked King was definitely my favourite in the series. I thought it was so fun and exciting, and I just absolutely loved it. So this will probably be my lowest priority of the week because it is a reread, but if I do manage to finish all of the other prompts and I want to delve back into a series that I know that I love, then I will be picking up The Wicked King. So there we have it. Those are all of the books that I'm hoping to read during the Gilmoreathon readathon. I am so hyped for this because I fully cannot wait to transport myself back into the world of Stars Hollow and just live that Gilmore Girls life for a week. Honestly, just would love to move to Stars Hollow, but as that's not possible, readathons which are focused on Gilmore Girls are definitely the next best thing. I'd love to know if you're planning to take part in this readathon as well, and if so, what books you're going to be picking up, and if not, let me know if you've read any of the books on my TBR and you think I should prioritise those ones first, or you have any thoughts you'd like to share. And just a reminder, I will be linking to all of the hosts in the description box down below, so go and check them out because they have created such a wonderful readathon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in Stars Hollow.